Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to talk about the swim goggles that I used for the triathlon I mentioned in my last week's video. And if you want to see how that race went, I'll put a link in the description to that video. But if you paid attention, like Rich Laps did in that video, you might have picked up that I mentioned I don't like the goggles that I had for the open water swim. So let's talk about what kind of goggles are good for open water swimming, what's the difference between pool swimming and open water swimming goggles, why it matters, and then let's just talk about my top 3 tips for open water swim goggles. So without further ado, let's get started. What is the most important difference between pool swimming and open water swimming? Well, to be fair, they're completely two different disciplines almost. The goggles that you might be using in a pool might not work for you out in open water, but the goggles that you're going to use for open water will definitely work in the pool, but they might not be the best option for that. Does that make sense? What are the differences? When you swim in a pool, it is very easy to stay in the lane, right? To go in a straight line. On the bottom of the pool, you have a black line that kind of gives you the direction to go in, and you have huge walls that literally hurt you if you don't pay attention to them to kind of turn around and to kind of guide you. You also have lanes in most cases on both of your sides that when you breathe, when you turn your head for breathing, either way, you see those lanes and you kind of stay in your lane. Now, with an open water swim, you don't have the lanes on the side anymore. You also don't have the black line on the bottom that kind of guides you, and you don't have the huge walls to know when you're done. What you do have though are buoys that are placed usually not even in a linear line in the open water that you now have to, while you're swimming, sight so you know where you're going. So what often ends up happening for an inexperienced open water swimmer like myself is I am more or less going a little zigzag, because every time I sight, I notice I'm a little off course, I adjust, I keep swimming for a little stroke, I sight again, I'm off course again, I need to adjust. It is definitely something you can work on, but that is the main difference between open water and pool. Number one, and what is the uttermost important, is the fit of the goggles and the seal of the goggles. If you're swimming in a pool and you notice that your goggles are leaking a little bit of water on one side or both sides, or worst case even in all over and you can't see anything, in the worst case scenario you can stop, grab the line and just kind of readjust your goggles. You can swim the remaining 25 or 50 yards that you have left and pause at the wall and take your goggles off, rinse them out, put them back on, adjust the fit. But when you're in open water, you don't have that option. You're in open water. There's nothing to hold on to or to quickly adjust your goggles. Of course, if you have to, you can stop, tread water, turn on your back. You're not gonna drown, but you cannot as easily adjust your goggles as you can in the pool. So the number one is fit. So how do you make sure that the goggles actually fit? Well, the best way to do it is to buy the goggles in the store and to just take them, place them on your eyes without putting the strap over your head, and see if they suction onto your eyes with slightly pressing them. If that is the case, it's a good starting point that they actually fit. But to be very sure, unfortunately, you just kind of have to buy some goggles, try them in open water, try them in the pool, and if they don't work, then you might have to switch to a different brand. The second most important thing is visibility. As we just discussed, in a pool you have all these little signs and signals that let you know that you're on the right path and when to stop and when to turn around. In open water, you don't have any of those, and it is up on you to sight the buoys that are sometimes 200 feet or more out there, and you have to make sure you can actually see them. So what I mean by visibility is choosing the right lens or the right goggles for the race. Imagine you're doing 70.3 St. George World and you're starting with everyone else at 7 in the morning when it's almost pitch black outside. Do you really think those really cool tinted goggles are gonna be helpful when it's already dark outside? Probably not. you would be better off using clear lenses for that race early in the morning. Compared to when I started on the Alpha Wind Triathlon a couple weeks ago, which we didn't go in the water till 9:15 in the morning, and the sun was already high up and almost shining into our eyes. Yeah, the tinted goggles were a good choice because I was able to see into the sun without having to squint and be blinded by it. For that reason, I would make sure that you know your start time and know the conditions, how dark or how light it's going to be for the race that you choose, and be prepared. Bring a pair of dark goggles and bring a pair of clear goggles, just so you can adjust on the fly and decide when you're actually there at the race. Tip number 3 is the anti-fog of the goggles. As you might know, when you get the goggles fresh out of the case, you put them on, you go swimming, it is amazing. It is so clear, you can see everything, but over time you notice that they slowly start to fog up. Why is that? New goggles have a small film of anti-fog in the inside of the goggles. Over time, that little layer just gets washed away in the pool, or if you do what you really should not do, are rubbing your fingers on the inside of the lens to kind of clear it up from your fog or even your tongue, that just takes the film right off and you ruin the anti-fog effect of your glasses. But you can replace it. There's a bunch of products from different brands that are anti-fog films that you can, it's a gel, it's a spray that you put on the inside of your goggles, and it replenishes that film so that you get the same feeling as when you put them on for the first time and you can clearly see. You really want to make sure you do that before the race, especially if your goggles are already older and tend to fog up. Let's recap really quickly. Number 1 is the fit of the goggles. The goggles need to fit perfectly. They shouldn't be squishing your eyeballs out. They shouldn't be too wide and not fit so that water comes in on the sides. And once you find the brand and the shape of the goggles that fits your face, just get a couple pairs. Definitely worth it. Tip number 2 is to have 2 pairs of goggles, one tinted and one clear, so that when it comes to the race, you see the condition, it's really dark or it's already pretty late in the day and bright, and you can choose the correct lens with the goggles to do the race, and you can actually see so that you can spot the buoys. Lastly is to pay attention to the anti-fog of your goggles. First of all, your goggles should have an anti-fog film already on it when you buy them. I don't even think they make goggles without that anymore, but if they do, make sure you don't buy those. Buy the ones with the anti-fog. And if the anti-fog just loosens up over time, is gone, washed out, or you rub the crap out of those goggles with your thumb, just get a little cream. You can get them on Amazon, a spray, a gel, a cream, whatever it is, and apply it to the inside of your goggles before every race so that you can clearly see and you're not fogging up during it. Because let me tell you, there's nothing worse than trying to spot the buoys. It is already a little cloudy or dark, and then you're also fogging up and you can't see anything. And a last bonus tip to keep the anti-fog as long lasting as possible, make sure some goggles already come in a case, but if not, it might be worth getting a little pouch or a case to put the goggles in after each practice, and to ensure that there's nothing rubbing in your bag on the inside of the goggles and taking the anti-film off. Now, very last, do you need different goggles for training and for racing? In my personal opinion, absolutely not. There are benefits to having training gear and racing gear, and I'm all for it, but when it comes to goggles, I found that it makes no difference to me, and you train in the goggles and you race in the same goggles at the end of the day. Now let me give you the 3 top brands that I have used so far and what I think about them. Roka is with the leading brand when it comes to all triathlon gear really, but also when it comes to lenses and eyewear in general. Their glasses and goggles are absolutely amazing, and I have tried those and raced in those, and I'm really happy with them. I can definitely recommend it. Next, we have Speedo. Speedo, I have to say, I really did not like. The glasses didn't last for too long. At the beginning they were amazing, but the fit wasn't right for me. They had a very wide fit to it. Didn't fit my face. I'm sure there are people out there where it fits, but Speedo was not. Lastly, we have TYR or TRI. I think it might be TRI. TRY goggles, which I'm currently using and I do like in the pool, but I noticed that the anti-fog didn't even last 2 weeks, and now I have to reapply weekly, and I still have issues on the outside of the lens that it is kind of fogging up where I touch it with my fingers. So necessarily a fan, I would definitely get the Roka over the TYR. But that is it with today's video. Thank you guys so much. If you found this video helpful, let me know down in the comments below. And if you have any experience with swim goggles yourself, let me down. But that is it with the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I appreciate you watching me or listening to me just rambling on about my experience in triathlon and what I notice works and doesn't work for me. And I hope that this is helpful to you as well. I hope you guys have an amazing day. If you have any questions or gear related stuff that you want me to cover next, let me know down in the comments below, and otherwise I'll see you next week. Easy baby. What is this? What is this?